Our focus story where India has slammed Pakistan a day after NIHR cheated Pathankot plotter and Pakistan-based terrorist Masood Azhar. India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Syed Akbaruddin, has a message for Pakistan. He says, "What you sow is what you'll reap." Well, NewsX was the first to report India will mount a diplomatic offensive once the NIHR cheated Masood Azhar, and so it happened at the United Nations Security Council.
Mr. President, Afghanistan's National Unity Government has India's full support for strengthening its defense capabilities to fight terrorism directed against it. We believe that the path to reconciliation in Afghanistan should be through an Afghan-led and Afghan-owned process in adherence to the internationally accepted red lines reflecting the aspirations of the people of Afghanistan. The international community needs also to send the right message, a message that it makes clear that we will neither roll over in the face of terror, nor will we allow the rollback of the achievements of the resolute people and government of Afghanistan in the last decade and a half. The connectivity that terror networks have established needs to be replaced by that of roads, trade networks, and ideas for peace and prosperity. We need to remind ourselves of what the great son of Balkh, the poet Rumi, had once said: "Every leaf that grows will tell you what you sow will bear fruit." So, if you have any sense, my friend, don't plant anything but peace. We need to address as an imperative the support that terrorist organizations like the Taliban, Haqqani Network, Daesh, Al-Qaeda and its designated affiliates such as Lashkar-E-Toiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed, which operate entirely outside the fabric of international law, draw from their shadowy supporters outside Afghanistan. If we are to bring sustainable peace to Afghanistan, groups and individuals that perpetrate violence against the people and the government of Afghanistan must be denied safe havens and sanctuaries in Afghanistan's neighborhood.
Let's go across to my colleague Pauline joining us live from the newsroom with further details. In very strong words, Pauline, India has slammed Pakistan at the United Nations, pretty much unexpected lines, since we at NewsX were discussing yesterday that how now, after the charge sheet against Masood Azhar, India will build that diplomatic pressure on Pakistan.
Absolutely, especially because the technical hold on Masood Azhar being designated as a terrorist at the United Nations Security Council, which has been applied by China, comes to an end on 31st December. Of course, China as a sovereign nation, it remains to be seen how it proceeds forward in terms of that technical hold, whether it tries to stonewall the process of designating Masood Azhar as an international terrorist and wanted terrorist. But the fact is that India will have to continue to mount that kind of international pressure to ensure that Pakistan takes some action against the perpetrators of terror across the neighborhood, the Indian neighborhood as well. It's not just, and hence in the context of Afghanistan, you heard the permanent representative to the United Nations, Syed Akbaruddin, raise the context of the fact that we, India, for instance, is involved in building and rebuilding institutions in Afghanistan in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of schools over there, but they are constantly under attack. Mosques are under attack, civilians are being targeted, and this is simply because safe havens are being provided to terrorists and terror outfits in Afghanistan's neighborhood, and we're specifically pointing towards Pakistan. Of course, we did not name Pakistan, but it was for all to sort of guess and understand exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about specific terrorist organizations, as Syed Akbaruddin was naming over there. He was naming the Taliban, the Al-Qaeda, the Daesh, the Haqqani Network, the Jaish-e-Mohammed as well. These are terrorist outfits that are being given safe sanctuary in Afghanistan's neighborhood. They seem to operate outside the boundaries of international law, is what we said, and that is exactly why they need to be targeted and clamped down upon. And that was the strong and clear message that India tried to put out at this forum, as well as we've been consistently trying to do in order to try and corner Pakistan on the world stage.
Yes, Pauline, and if we look at it, there has been a build-up, a series of sorts where India is falling and trying to corner Pakistan and put it in a box. You see, Prime Minister Modi, be it international platforms like G20 summit a few months ago, then of course India pulling out of SAARC altogether, and now we name Pakistan indirectly at the UNSC just yesterday. We're looking at how consistent pressure is being built on Pakistan and trying to put it in its own place.
Absolutely. We've been doing it at all kinds of diplomatic fora that are available to India to ensure that that kind of pressure is brought upon Pakistan to act against these terror outfits that are being provided safe sanctuary on Pakistani soil, that continue to perpetrate terror not just in India but in the entire neighborhood. And there are other nations like Afghanistan that are victims of the same. Afghanistan showed that kind of solidarity with India at the Heart of Asia summit in Amritsar as well, where Prime Minister Modi did address some of those foreign ministers who were present over there. Sartaj Aziz, the advisor, the foreign affairs advisor to Prime Minister of Pakistan, Nawaz Sharif, is also present at that forum, and we ensured that that message was loud and clear that terrorism needs to be clamped down upon, and terrorism is in fact emanating in our own neighborhood, and if nations do not take action and do not pull up their socks, then clearly this becomes a global threat that we're facing on a very large scale.
Right. Paul, let me request you to stay with us. We also have Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia joining us over the telephone line. General Bhatia, good morning, sir. Your first thoughts on what we are tracking, where India has slammed Pakistan at the United Nations. We're looking at how the permanent envoy over there, Saeed Akbaruddin, has said in a very strong statement, what you sow will bear fruit. If you've any sense, my friend, don't plant anything but peace. That's the message that India is sending out to Pakistan after Masood Azhar has been named in that charge sheet just yesterday.
Yes, Masood Azhar has been named in the charge sheet, and Masood Azhar is a terrorist and heading a terrorist organization which has waged a terrorist war and a terrorist acts against India a number of times. They also have linkages with Taliban and Afghanistan. And there's high time when the diplomatic pressures do come on Pakistan, isolated, and Masood Azhar brought to a book. He is being one of the main, terrorist organizations which are engaging this, proxy war on behalf of the Pakistani ISI. It is not only that, we go wrong in calling them non-state actors. They're actually state actors following a state policy. So it is time the UN, the international community, gets after terrorism. Terrorism today is a very big threat to peace all over the world. There have been 3 incidents as of yesterday, the world over, major incidents. So you see, this has to be stopped and put an end to it. And the community has to stand together and make sure that Pakistan will handle terrorism, which is terrorism.
But General Bhatia, how hopeful really are you? Because it's not the first time that India is trying to build this diplomatic pressure on Pakistan. We have been doing it over months with Prime Minister Modi, even bringing this issue up internationally. And Pakistan, of course, being a nation that doesn't seem to even admit terrorism on its own soil, it has been in perpetual denial. So how hopeful really are you that this diplomatic pressure will seem to work on Pakistan?
No, you see, we have to continue to try. It is not that I am hopeful, because it has happened for many years now, that it's a known fact that the deep state is not only existing, it is very active in Pakistan, and they're doing what they have to do. And it's a Pakistan state policy, like I said. But then we have to try and synergize all elements of national power and international power. Diplomatic being one of them, economic is the second one, and we need to isolate Pakistan in the international community so that they feel the pinch. If you recollect, after the surgical strikes, the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif told the then Chief Jaish Sharif that you have helped isolate Pakistan because of your acts. So that was a big change. So we need, there's a time for everything. I think the world is now getting really, the terrorism has really crossed the threshold, and the tolerance levels have been crossed, and Pakistan being the epicenter.
But General Bhatia, there is a huge worry. There is a huge concern, because you see, one of the larger nations over here, China, continues to back Pakistan, sir. We're looking at how Masood Azhar has not been, we've not been able to get him on the designated list of terrorists because of China, which continues to be the stumbling block here. So how do we change that equation?
Yes, that's another challenge, because China, if you see in the last 10 years, have used the veto 5 to 6 times, and twice for Masood Azhar and Hafiz Syed. So that is China's record. Now that's what said. It's not only India; it's the international community which has to come together, and India, of course, has to lead the way. India has to play a leading role in this, and I'm sure China will realize that at point of time that this cannot continue, because the China-Pakistan economic corridor is very important to China. It is central to the One Belt One Road, And if China wants that to succeed, the terrorism has to be checked. Otherwise, the terrorists will not allow this project to succeed. And a lot of it rides on the CPEC, that the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor.
Yeah.
It is very important to Pakistan economically. It also gives them strategic depth, and it gives them an all-weather road to China. So it is in the interest of both China and Pakistan also to an extent that this goes through. And this can only goes through if the terrorism in Pakistan is checked.
All right, we leave it at that. General Bhatia, I appreciate you joining us this morning with your comments. Thanks very much for speaking with us. Paulomi, coming back to you and talking about China, which continues to be the stumbling block over here. What efforts do you think India can really make on that front? Because the concern really is that Masood Azhar is still not on that designated list only because of China. We've had India put pressure, India give evidence, United States supporting India, and of course slamming Pakistan on several occasions. But it is China that is the stumbling block here.
That's right. China definitely is the stumbling block because of the technical hold that it has put on designating Masood Azhar as a global terrorist. Now, that is something we cannot unfortunately circumvent, really. So we will have to keep making diplomatic efforts in order to ensure that we can get China on board. This is exactly what we tried at the G20 summit in China as well earlier. Prime Minister Modi himself was engaging in discussions and talks with President Xi Jinping in order to try and get China on board as far as India's efforts to try and isolate Pakistan is concerned. But we do know the kind of friendly relations that China and Pakistan share, as a result of which China continues to stonewall India's efforts to diplomatically isolate Pakistan.
Right.
Unfortunately, like I said, there is no other method but to constantly try and engage in discussions with China and have it see reason.
We'll leave it at that for a moment, Paulomi. Thanks very much for joining us with those inputs. Well, after months, 12 months, the Pathankot truth is out in the open. The NIA has filed that charge sheet yesterday in the Pathankot attack case, and JeM chief Masood Azhar has been named as the prime accused along with 3 others as co-accused, including Azhar's brother, Rauf Ashkar, who immediately after the Pathankot incident had hosted a video message claiming responsibility for the strike.
We have filed a detailed charge sheet in the Special NIA Court Mohali against 4 accused persons who are all Pakistani nationals, including the chief of Jaish-e-Mohammed, Maulana Masood Azhar. After we have collected very strong evidence against them in the form of digital evidence, technical evidence, oral and documentary evidence. The planning was done in Pakistan. They were provided training, they were provided weapons, they were provided other logistical support, and then they were constantly directed and handled by the handlers to carry out attacks at a air base in India. That is sufficient evidence to prove that the whole thing was done in Pakistan.
It is up to the international community to act upon it, because the NIA is also planning to issue red corner notice for this. This should put enough pressure on the United Nations to declare Azhar Masood and his terrorist organization as an international terrorist organization. And also, I would think that China would be also under pressure to now not to bail out Azhar Masood as been doing earlier, and in keeping in view his confirmed association in this terror attack, China should also help UN in declaring him a proclaimed terrorist.
After a very detailed, thorough, professional, scientific investigation, today we have filed a charge sheet against Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Maulana Masood Azhar, his brother and 2 handlers, Latif and Kasifzan, in the Special NIA Court Mohali. And we have collected the digital evidence, the technical evidence, the oral evidence or documentary evidence. We have brought it on record, which we have filed in the court.
How many pages of charge sheet and
The main charge sheet, the main body of the charge sheet is over 100 pages.